I am Matt Ball.
So, first question, describe your life before you accepted Christ.
Honestly, my life, I had a great childhood. Grew up in a Christian home. Grew up with, on a farm with my parents and my grandparents and all my cousins, and we all went to a small country church. So I don't really ever remember a time in my life that church and the and church wasn't a big part of my life, and that was a big part of my family. So, the little church that I grew up in, Hepzibah Baptist Church, was just down the road, and my grandparents was one of the founders of it.
Oh,
So
really?
so we were there. We've always been there, and
Cool.
maybe not the founders, but they've always been a
They
part
were
of that.
part of it getting
my
started.
my mom's parents,
Uh-huh.
and both my parents were had a strong Christian family, that they raised us in, and they were raised that way. So it's just always been part of what the way I've been raised. So
Was there any like pivotal moments on you growing up in the church that stuck out to you? Like you felt like you were closer to God? Or?
I think because of I've thought about that. That question has been one that it's kind of hard for me to answer sometimes because, I'm not the kind of person that has a massive testimony of, I was strung out on drugs or alcohol or anything like that. But I think there's a lot of great things that can come from showing the struggles of actually being in a actually stable Christian family your whole life, and how easy it is to kind of stray off of being, because I never had that absolute just 180-degree turn to God. You've got to sometimes you got to work harder at finding those moments, in my opinion. And I think it just was a slow progression for me, growing up. Then I got older, granted, as a teenager, I did things that I shouldn't, obviously. And I had a lot of good friends that were, we did a lot of, outdoor stuff, riding four-wheelers and running around and going catfishing and that kind of stuff. And they're just the kind of things that made me who I am.
Nothing like dragging a chair around.
Possibly. We did crazy things, and we had a lot of fun, but I was never in a crowd that was just like on the other side of being a Christian.
Yeah.
I might have been in a crowd that was Christian that was acting up a little bit now and then, but then I went to college, and I would say one of the pivotal moments might have been when I went to college and met Trisha, because she had such a strong faith. She was beautiful. And I was, and fell in love with her. And and the other thing about the way her and I met, we were in a group called the West Virginians, and we traveled around the country, and we had a sacred concert, or we called it was a sacred show that we did, and went around to Baptist churches. And because of what we were doing there, we were getting up in front of audiences, and we were, talking about, faith and singing about God and singing about, this was, 30 years ago now, 20 years ago, whatever. Gosh, 30 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but
I don't know if many people now here at Porterfield probably know that you have a wonderful voice.
Well,
and Trisha does too.
Yeah, we do. We that's how we met. We sang, and but
did you get a scholarship to AB?
We both paid. Yeah, no, we both had a full scholarship to college, and that's how I met her. She was already there, and I came in, and she was a sophomore. I was a freshman, and of course, that is a time in your life, and I know with my kids, that's a pivotal time in their life, and I think that's what's great about what we do here at Porterfield. I think we try to really prepare them for that that transition from the high school and the family, like me, I was in that family circle of my hometown in Little Grafton, West Virginia, but I didn't get thrown to the dogs when I went to college. I went to a Christian college, and I was in a group that was really focused around music and a lot of worship music. So by being in front of people and by doing that, it made me realize that I didn't want to be a hypocrite up there talking to people about and giving testimonies and talking about the songs we're singing and
for it not to be real.
And yeah, I wanted to be real, but I wanted to be living that. And that was a little more of a progression. And just seeing the way Trisha's faith and not that I didn't have a strong faith, I just kind of built it. And there was other people that around me in that group that came from different, walks of life that were a little farther in their Christian relationship. And I kind of would step up to that level by being around them and learning from them. So, and that's what, I think is really the progression in all of our Christian life is how we can, look at, no matter what stage you are, I feel like you need to seek out people that are just a little bit above you and where they're at. And I think that helps bring you up. And then you also need to remember that you're going to be that person for somebody below you. So that's and it's still that way. I that happened in college, and then we got married. I came here, and then there's so many people I could name from this church. Ron Anderson, Roger Heft, and so many people that I've really grown. Jim
Preston.
Jim Preston.
Yeah,
Gosh, man.
that's all right.
All these guys that they've become family to me, but they were a little farther, I feel like, in their knowledge and their spiritual knowledge than where I was, and they've pushed me to learn. And I feel like that's how it's supposed to work. And you've been one of them, you and Mark and everybody. So I got off track there, but that's how
that's what we're talking
all
about.
Works.
It's really good.
So there wasn't a Matt Ball.
Well, I do want to say that I think you're right on the fact that everybody has a testimony, and maybe sometimes I think for people that grow up in the church, they feel like, well, I don't have a dynamic testimony, but every testimony is important, and just that stability and that faithfulness is a testimony in itself of God's continual, taking care of you and watching over you. And I'm sure you can look back and see areas where He kind of maybe safeguarded you to keep you out of the wrong crowd and kind of kept you on the right track with people that could be influential.
And still does today.
Yeah. So what have been some of the journeries in your life that were valleys, that were struggles or hardships that you've had to go through?
One of the biggest ones definitely was a few years back when we lost Trisha's dad, and then not too long after her mother. And, the circumstances around her dad passing and me having to see her hurt so bad. And that was a time of it was a dark time, for our family, for us to deal with those and the feelings about that. And at first we had, we'd lost her dad, and we were dealing with her mom that had some brain injury issues and some of that. So we went from, everything's super to all of a sudden our focus in life went to something else. And it was quite a few years that we was kind of through that. And then shortly, not too long after her dad passed, her mom did. And that was a tough time. It was a time that I had to kind of step up and be the one that was, Trisha's such a nurturing person, and I am too, but I realized then that she needed somebody there,
extra support,
extra. And that's where it was a dark time, but I also found through that time the absolute closeness of the Christian family that I've got here in Porterfield and around this area and everywhere, that just literally was there to lift us up and to support us. And that's another one of those steps in your faith where you start, he put us in a really bad spot there with what we were dealing with. But all around us was all these great things happening that was, whether we realized it at first, we now, over time, we realized that he was lifting us up through the people, the church, and the others the around us that were helping us. So
Yeah. So you mentioned leaning on other people, but as far as you guys, how did you lean on the Lord through that time with
prayer.
the other people? Yeah.
a lot of prayer, and
kind of forced you to
there
your
was
knees.
a lot of anger. I mean, honestly,
sure.
there was for me, it was, why does this have to happen the way it did, and it really it tried my faith, but it also, I'd say it was probably trying on my wife's as well, obviously, but we're stronger for it now.
Yeah, that's why I think it's interesting about the valleys, because it does. Nobody wants to go through those dark times, but it does help us a lot of times strengthen ourselves.
Yeah.
So, talking about your childhood a little bit, you going back to that, what was kind of like your childhood? You mentioned a farm. So what things did you do on the farm? Did you guys have animals?
No, we threw cow pies at each other. My dad was a diesel mechanic, and we lived on the same, big farm as my grandparents, who had a dairy farm. So, growing up, my grandparents had a dairy farm, and then later my dad drove the truck to deliver the milk. So I was always kind of in that, with my cousins, and we was at the farm, and then later on, they kind of got out of the dairy business, and so I've always been a country boy. That's where I'm comfortable. That was a tough move for me to move here years ago.
Sure.
Because I grew up on out in the country, and then
how big a farm did you guys have?
Not a real big farm.
Oh, okay.
But just a
you
small.
had woods around you, pretty much.
I had woods. I could run and ride 4-wheelers and hunt and shoot and whatever. And when I first moved here, when Trish and I got married, we lived in Belpre, and that was just.
So you didn't live in the house that you live at now, huh? Okay.
No, for the first till Ryan was born, in 95, I think. Yeah, we lived. We got married in 94. He was born in 95, and we lived in Belpre in a little tiny apartment. We lived in 3 different places, but I hated it. I hated it. And that's actually where Ron Anderson is one of the first people that I met here, and I can't thank him enough for he took me under his wing here in this area.
That's awesome.
And took me, gave me a place to hunt. Him and Scott Cousins and Roger Heft, and Oscar Grog. They gave me a place to do what I have always done at home here. Yeah. So that's something I always try to remember when there's new people coming in, that I was that guy one time, maybe lost, feeling like, man, where are you at? What am I doing here? I was happy. I had a wonderful wife and we was having kids, but there's part of you that just don't feel right when you're not in the habitat, in your own habitat. I needed to be in the country, in the woods, and the Lord blessed us with an awesome place out in the country, shortly after we got married, and we've been there ever since, and it gives me a place to do all those crazy country things that I like to do.
So what kind of family dynamic do you have? I know you have do you have a sister and a brother?
Yeah, I got a brother and a sister.
And then what's the age difference? Did you guys ever fight?
Oh yeah, they hated me. I was so mean to them.
Were you the baby?
I was the old one.
Oh, you're the old one.
I'm the oldest. So yeah, actually my mom had a child before me, and it passed away right after birth, and then I was born. So I think they just absolutely just ruined me by spoiling me, because I was just a brat. Take Ryan and then multiply it by 10. That was me, as he was a kid. But no, and then my brother, I got a younger brother, and then my sister's a few years younger than him. So I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
We all get along good, but we didn't really get along that good growing up. To be honest with you, I was a jerk to him probably.
You were giving him a tough love.
They probably still don't like me, but
I've seen them at your house, I think, a few times, so they must still like you. Share some funny moments about your life. I know we've talked already.
How many do you want me to share?
A few funny moments, maybe about your kids or you and Trisha doing stuff together when you first got started.
Are you going to edit this?
We if we have to.
All right. Well, I'm going to go for it, and I'll let you decide. One of my favorite stories ever. Okay. And this has to do with family. So, we've got 4 kids, and, we had Ryan, we had Logan, Jordan, and then we thought, man, we really want to have a girl. So we had Becca. Well, that was time then for me to shut the factory down, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
My factory's shut down too.
So it was time to go to the doctor and get that started. So having 4 kids, and it was one of those deals where you're never alone. So I had Jordan with me, and and of course Trisha had baby Becca, and Ryan and Logan were probably in school. Well, I had an appointment with the urologist to get a check, to get everything set up for a vasectomy. Well, I had Jordan with me. And this is actually a funny story about Jordan too. But anyway, so he's, I don't know, 3, maybe 2, not very big. We're in the office, and I think I'm going to go in here, and we're just going to have the doctor's going to come in, tell me what's going to happen, and he did. Talked about the procedure and what would be done, and made sure Now
Jordan's in the room with you?
Jordan's in the room with me. He's playing his little Nintendo. He's sitting in the corner, little tiny Jordan, and everything's all good. And I'm thinking, all right, we're good. And then the doctor said, "Hey, I just need to give you a quick exam," and I'm thinking, ugh. So I had to drop the drawers there, and Jordan, I'm thinking he's back here playing his Nintendo. He's not. And the doctor, he checks me out, and I'm in the whole time thinking, this is so awkward. I'm getting checked by a doctor with my son, who's old enough to play a Nintendo. So he's just, Well, I look over after I get everything buttoned back up, and he's just staring at me. Doctor goes out. I sit down, and Jordan goes, "Dad, my doctor just looks in my ears." So, you need to get a new doctor, son. Dad, you need to get a new doctor, because he don't do that to me.
That's not usual.
Yeah, that's the look on his face when that happened was funny. And then
he's like scared for you.
Yeah. And then actually there's another story about that same procedure that actually happened a few months later, and some super glue and some gauze that didn't get placed where it should.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So if you have that done, listen to the doctors. There's reasons why they give you some gauze in some certain places. So.
Now I heard vehicles break down on you too.
Well, yeah. So we're coming back from. You got to see a video of this one, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, we're coming back from. We camp a lot, and we're coming back from North Bend State Park, I think. My truck had been acting up, and I had changed the drive shaft, the U joints in the drive shaft, and on the way back, it just started making a lot of noise, and I'm thinking, okay, this is. But we can make it home. We're not that far. Well, we're coming across the Parkersburg, and all of a sudden the noise goes away and the truck just stops moving, so the drive shaft just come loose, and it came off. It rolls out along the side of the road, and I kind of drift over and get stopped. And I'm thinking, well, there it is. So I run back, pick that thing up, and as soon as I do, that thing is just cherry red, and I just burnt the heck out of my hands, and my kids were videotaping.
Yeah, they're not concerned about your well-being, are they? They're trying to document.
There's a video out there of that. So
I'm sure knowing your whole family that you guys enjoy a laugh.
We laugh all the time.
And you were telling me earlier
we played cards with the ladybug the other day, and it's really hard to explain how funny that really was. That you have to ask Ryan about playing cards with Larry the ladybug.
Larry the ladybug.
Yeah. He almost won.
I think that's what's interesting about all you guys. You guys have a sense of humor and a playfulness to all.
We have a lot of fun. I don't think being a Christian should ever be boring by far. And honestly, I think I feel like a lot of people are drawn to my kids because they're so fun, you
Yeah.
know, but they're still good Christian kids
There's a seriousness to them, but
Yeah.
there's also a fun side.
and I'm
to
very
them.
proud of that. I'm
Yeah.
proud of Trisha has done a great job raising those kids.
Oh, I mean, you did something too.
She's done a good job.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about how God's been using you
Okay.
through a hobby that
Yeah.
you've always enjoyed. And
Yeah.
first, let's talk about how that hobby
Yeah.
started, and then maybe how it moved into something else.
Well, back in 2016, I'll go back farther than that. I've always been an outdoorsman, like I said, and love to hunt, love to fish. Well, my dad and we've always loved to fish in rivers, and we bought kayaks to start fishing in rivers, and we would do a lot of river fishing, and then I kind of got one of my buddies, Coy Lehman, his wife Andrea goes here too. We decided after a few years, I got him in it, and we were doing a lot of river trips, and one day him and I said, "Hey, there's a tournament happening on the New River. Let's just go do it. It'll be fun." So him and I went and we competed in this kayak fishing tournament on the New River, and we did really well. That was like at the end of one year. Well, the next year we decided we was going to do a lot more of it. So we fished that whole year with a group out of West Virginia called Mountain State Kayak Anglers, and we, did pretty good and had a lot of fun. It was just fairly local, but we would fish these tournaments. And
What year was it when you first got started, that first tournament?
The first tournament was, I think, in 2014, and then 2015, throughout that year, is when we fished with Mountain State Kayak Anglers that first year. And then I qualified through that to go fish the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship. It was the first one they were having in 2016. It was in I think March or April of 2016. So I'd qualified for that, and Coy and we said, "Hey, let's go. There's going to be hundreds of people in this thing from all across the country. We'll never have a chance, but let's just go. We'll go fish Kentucky Lake and give it a shot." Well, I ended up winning it.
Yeah.
So I won.
And that was the national, right?
I won the first ever Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship, and
so kayak fishing really isn't that old, is it? Like, I mean, as far as getting it started, and
the tournament fishing has probably been, I mean, it really has blown up since probably 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I mean, we're talking, I mean, at that tournament, that was a national championship. Of course, there was people from all across the country, and I think there was 250 to 300 people in this tournament, and I won it. Well, the next year, there were, I think, 400 people, and then the next year after that, there was almost 5. And it's just
speaking to that first year that you won it, what was that like for you to realize that you won, and how
was
did
crazy.
You realize you
so won? I won it on Kentucky Lake in Paris, Tennessee, and I knew going into it was a 2-day tournament. I knew going into it that I had a chance, but it wasn't anything that.
So by you mean having a chance? You done well.
I had done well
before.
day one, and
okay.
Day two, I thought I got to do pretty good. Well, I ended up catching some really good fish on day 2, and heading to the weigh-in. The way we do that, we measure the fish on a board, and we submit pictures that tag the location and where you caught it and when you caught it, so that it's all legit.
Yeah.
And there's identifiers. It's a whole thing, and
your special numbers you write on the board
you
too,
got numbers, right? And
like your personal number, or
special boards, and they've got a way to do it to where it's
keeps it legitimate.
There's been some people cheat and find over the years it's evolved into better systems, but anyway, I heading to the weigh-in, I thought, man, I think I might have had a chance to do pretty good and cash a check, not just win it, but just make some money.
Yeah.
So I was pretty excited. Well, they brought me up before the awards. Somebody came out and got me, and they said, "Hey, we need you to come to the back," and they wanted to look at all of my submissions again on my phone and verify it, just to make sure I wasn't, nothing was wrong. And there was very few people they did that with, and I'm thinking, wow, I must have did really well. Well, then they get down and they start calling people up, and they're calling people up, and I'd never gotten called. And I'm thinking, man,
Maybe you didn't do so.
maybe I didn't do good. But then, so they called 2 people up. They got down to the last 2, and they called us up.
Oh, wow.
And I was one of them. And there was probably 30 guys from Mountain State Kayak Anglers that we were all stayed at a house together, and great guys. And we were all sitting there together. They stayed. And when they announced my name, it was just crazy. They came rushing up on the stage, and it was unreal, you know. And that right there was probably, you know, granted having my children and getting married or the top of that list. But as far as outside of that kind of thing, that was just one of the most incredible feelings, is to know that I just accomplished something that was really hard to do, doing something I love. And coming home from that, I didn't even have a Facebook account at that time. Trisha did. And the only
you guys shared one, really.
well, she had one. I wasn't even interested in having Facebook, but the only way you could get communication through some of these tournaments, they communicated through Facebook. So I signed up to these tournaments and joined these groups with her Facebook page. So a lot of times it would be Trisha Ball.
Yeah.
I didn't even add my name to it until after I won the national championship. So I added my name to it because that's where I was getting all that information, and I added my name to it. And on the way home, I was getting just requests after requests, people congratulating me, and it was unreal. That
I'm sure that was a different feeling.
It was. It was weird. I mean,
go from nothing to something like that, to where you're getting bombarded by stuff.
And it was, you know, different manufacturers was talking to me and congratulating me that, you know, because I used certain things, and they would be like, you know, I was in a Jackson kayak, and I got a message from, you know, one of the people that I looked up to at Jackson saying, hey, great job. Congratulations. And that, so I kind of realized on the way home, and the head of KBF, good friend of mine now, his name's Chad Hoover, you know, he pulled me aside afterwards, and he said, Matt, I don't know if you realize this is going to change your life. He said, this is going to be big. You know, kayak fishing is getting big, and you just won the first national. You just won the biggest payout ever in a kayak, you know, at this point. And granted, that's, you know, we're winning that kind of money in some of these other tournaments now, but still.
But to be the first, that's really
the first
honor,
ever, you know, and he told me that, and you know, and all that. So on the way home, I'm getting all these requests, and I'll be honest with you, it was overwhelming. It was actually a little scary, thinking, man, what do I do with this? And the Lord just kind of put it on my heart. You know, Matt, you're going to have a platform that you did not. I just gave you a platform. What are you going to do with it? Yeah. And that wasn't an easy thing to have on my heart, honestly. Because I thought, man, what do I do with this? You know, how do I use this to glorify Him? And honestly, the first year, I really struggled with how do I need to do that? And it just came to me. You know, I was always praying during the tournaments and stuff, but I thought, you know, I'm going to start sharing this online. You know, before a tournament. That was something that I wanted to start doing, is put when I'm sitting at the ramp the night, you know, the morning before the tournament, I'd always pray. I prayed throughout the tournament, but before I go out, it's just kind of, you're nervous, and I would just sit there and I just kind of pray and just try to calm myself down. And after a couple of tournaments, I thought, you know, after I get done with this, I'm gonna just kind of jot what I just prayed down and post it out there to the world, to the tournaments, and it just was overwhelmingly received as like, man, we really appreciate you doing this, and so that kind of started that.
If anybody has a chance to check out some of those beautiful pictures, because you got the sunrise, right?
I try to get you kind of got a plan for it, because you know the sunrise that I'm posting is usually one of the days pre-fishing. I'll get a picture of it because the sun's not up yet. We're heading down in the water in the dark, you know. But and then I'll also have people. I'll reach out to people and like, hey, I'm going to post my prayer tomorrow. You got a really cool picture that really you know glorifies God. Send it to me, and I'd love to use it. And it's just so overwhelming, the amount of, honestly, the people that have reached out to me for, you know, prayer, for advice, for just somebody to talk to. And I kind of, I don't know that I've done a great job of utilizing that, but it's been something that, you know how the Lord puts you in places and you kind of fight it.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier to just get up and go fishing than it is to worry about, doing that. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm there for, I feel like, so I've got to keep that up, and I love it. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm building right now with some other people, where that has evolved into doing fellowship meetings at the events, either before the event or right after the event. We're having we call it a fisherman's fellowship, and it's a good friend of mine, and I was talking earlier about people that kind of help build you up. There's another guy that had reached out to me, and incredibly great Christian man that I really look up to. His name's Cody Prather, and he reached out to me last year and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing." He said, "The Lord's put it on my heart that I feel like we need to do something more." And I said, "Man, I feel the same way. I'm struggling with what to do."
Yeah.
He said, "Well," he said, we need to be having events. We need to be having services during these events. I feel like that's on his heart." And I said, "It is mine too." So we decided we were going to start, just making it a point, any event that we're at, we're going to have those fellowship meetings. And at the national championship this past year, we probably had 80 people stay.
That's awesome.
And basically we just get up.
And you're talking about fellow anglers, right?
Yeah, fellow anglers. But we leave it open to anybody.
Yeah.
I'll put a post out and say, "Hey, we're having a fellowship meeting after the weigh-in. Please, anybody come that would be interested." And we don't have a scripted thing to talk about. Him and I kind of pray about what we want to talk about, but generally it seems like something will be on both of our minds. It's crazy when we do it together.
Yeah.
And we'll be like, "Man, what did you want to talk about?" And he's like, "Well, man, this has been on my heart." And I'll be like, "Well, let me show you what I was kind of looking at." And I'm like, "Isn't this crazy?" And he's like, "No, it's not. That's just how the Lord works." Yeah. So, and it's not a sermon. We'll share a scripture or a devotional, and then people will just start talking. Yeah. And that's what we're there for. Just for people to talk about life and about being out on the road. And, because the one thing I don't like about the tournament scene is that it does take me away from home. And doing this, I feel like it keeps me grounded. It keeps, the Lord is going to work through this no matter what I do. Mm-hmm. And I've just got to be willing to do what he wants. And it gives us a little bit of it keeps a focus on him.
Yeah.
Through this, because it's easy to, in this sport and any competitive sport, it's real easy to get focused on you.
Yeah.
Me. What am I doing? I'm great. I'm fishing. I'm catching fish, but that's not really, and that's something that I've talked about, and I really strive to try not to let Matt Ball, the kayak fisherman, be my identity. I don't want that to be. I am a kayak fisherman, but I'm also a child of God, that I'm a follower of God, and I'm a sinner saved by grace, and that's all we all are. So that's kind of the message we want to give out there, that anybody can come with your problems, come with your and let's talk about it. And I've had meaningful conversations in prayer with people on the water that's come up to me, and that means a lot. That's heavy for me, that somebody looks at me as someone that they would want to come and confide in, and I that's been something I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful how God's been using you in that way. Like you said, that you felt God saying, "Hey, I want you to use this platform for me." I'm sure that's humbling.
It is, and it's sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing enough, but I know that I've got to keep looking for ways to incorporate him and what I'm doing, or else it's not really for anything. You know?
If there were some words that you'd like people to remember you by, and just when they think of Matt Ball, just to be able to those words come to mind, what would be some of those words?
I want to be humble. I don't want to ever. I mean, I'm proud of what I've accomplished in this sport and what I do, but I don't really. I don't have a very high self-esteem, to be honest with you. I mean,
Really?
that's one thing that I struggle with. You know, I probably have more self-doubt and self. You know, I judge myself probably more than I should sometimes. So, but I want to be humble, and I want to be somebody that is. I want you to know that if you see me out on the water or, you know, out to eat with all the guys while we're fishing, that's the same guy that's given that prayer. Not, I don't want to be somebody different.
Yeah.
Outside of when I'm being a Christian. You know, I want to be that all the time. But that's also the same guy that can joke around with the guys and have fun, that they feel comfortable with, you know, but Matt, that's still Matt the Christian that's keeping his faith and his reputation. So, you know, I want to be honorable. I want to be humble. I want to be, and I want to be a good fisherman. I ain't gonna lie. I want to be good at what I'm doing. This is the competitive side of me wants to win. You know, I want to go out there and pray for you, but then I want to beat you. I do. I mean, that's the way I am. I mean, but I genuinely struggle with that sometimes because it's hard to go out there and try to win.
Yeah.
But the Lord in the back of your mind say, "Hey, Matt, you need to stop and pray with this person because they want to talk." When you might want to just, I need to get down this bank, but there's somebody that stops you on the bank that they know you and they just want to talk. And it may not be about anything to do with Christ, but just taking that time to talk to people and being approachable and teaching people how to fish, teaching people things, and just being a person in the sport that is recognizable and being somebody that's just human and able to share. You know, that's what I want to be. I want to be a helper and a teacher, and you know that. I guess does it make any sense?
Oh yeah, I heard humble, honorable, a teacher.
Yeah, I want to do that. So, and I want to win. I want to be a winner. I want to be a winner, and I want to be humble. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you already mentioned, but I just want to give you a chance if there's other people. I know you mentioned Ron and Jim Preston and others that have really impacted you spiritually. But I'm sure there was, even growing up as a kid, there might have been some other people.
My grandparents, my grandpa, my mom, my dad, you know, obviously, but really, my wife, Tricia, has been a big impact on so many people, and me including.
Yes.
You know,
I was almost thinking about this interview, and I was thinking about how Trisha's almost more popular than you are here.
She is.
You're popular on the outside. She's popular on the inside.
She's a rock star. No, you know, Ron has always been somebody I looked up to. Jim and Roger and Greg Daniel. You know, those guys that I just mentioned, and that's one thing that I will tie this into the whole Porterfield thing. You know, these small groups, they can so much become a family.
Yes.
And they are. I mean, I've got family in Grafton and in here, but I look at, you know, the Hefts, the Daniels, the Youngs, the Prestons, you know, those people have been so much a part of my life that they're genuinely family to me, and that's through this church.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I've been a member of this. My wife's been a member of this church since she was born, basically, and you know, I've been going here since her and I started dating back in 91.
Wow.
Yeah, 90 and 91. So, you know,
I graduated high school in 92.
Yeah. So I was in college then. Well, I'm
yeah,
probably,
we're not too far from each other. No.
I was in college in 91. So, but I started coming here when I'd see her. And then when we got married, I was become a member. So this has been family here. And,
well, I think that's so great because you know, Trisha and some of the other ladies got into a small group, right? That's what you're talking about. And now some of you guys still meet in your small group.
Yeah, we do. we have a group that we meet, and we do a Bible study, and we did that years ago too. And then life. I've been a shift worker for years at DuPont, and over the last year, I've finally gotten to where I'm a day turn person. So I actually am home every night. I'm home every weekend, or if I'm not traveling for fishing, I'm home. So I can be a part of a small group more so than I was in the past, and that means a lot to me because that's where it's like going out. The way I look at it is, if I'm going to fish a tournament, I'm going to practice. I'm going to prepare. I'm going to get out. I'm going to work on my tackle. I'm going to work on my lures. I'm going to work on my techniques. Well, that's what those small groups, and that's what all the different things that happen throughout the week, those are just training sessions all throughout your whole life to when situations come up, your life tournaments, that's what you're preparing for. And those are your buddies that are helping you learn how to handle those things. And, it's
well, and kind of adding to what you're saying, is there anything else? I know that's a big part of what keeps you grounded in the Lord, but is there anything else that you do, music or scriptures or devotions?
Honestly, I love music. Aside from, if I could make a living with music and fishing, I'd throw some hunting in there. Be tickled to death. So,
well, the hunting provides the meat.
Yeah. So
that takes care of your family.
I just love that. That's just what makes me happy. That's
what kind of music do you like to listen to?
I love praise and worship music. I just absolutely love praise and worship music. I mean, that's what I listen to when I'm traveling all over the country. I'll be driving for 12 hours. I'm listening to that, or I listen to podcasts with sermons and just things to just kind of help keep my mind on the right things. Nothing gets me more emotionally centered to God than music. It prepares me, and I love music. I love to sing it. I love to play it. I love to, I love music.
Do you play an instrument?
Yeah, I play the kazoo. No, I play the guitar a little, not much.
I've never seen you play
trumpet.
Guitar. That's cool.
I actually
was you in band?
Fun
in school?
fact here: I went to college as a music major.
Okay.
Yep, that was when I went to college. I went to be a music major, and then after the first semester, I realized how much I hated being a music major and being forced to do music and the types of music that I didn't like, that I left that and I got into broadcasting.
Really?
So I have a degree in broadcasting and speech communications.
Well, I had no idea about that. That's so interesting.
That's what I have a degree in.
It's kind of interesting that Ryan I see him doing a lot of that type of stuff. So that's interesting.
Yeah, actually, back in the day, I was, helping with a lot of the sound back when Porterfield, before
the fire and everything.
I loved working with sounds. I love music, sound, and that kind of stuff. But there's only so many things you can, get involved in right now, and fishing kind of takes a lot of that.
Well, I want to tell you how much your family has inspired me, encouraged me as a minister. You have just an awesome family.
Well, thank you.
Your kids have. I hope I've made an impact in their life, but at the same time, they've made an impact on me.
I appreciate that.
I want to let you know that.
Of all the things that I am, proud of, I'm very proud of the way my kids have turned out. They're all strong Christians. They've all got a heart for God. They've all got they're all out there doing things that are glorifying Him, and I just, everybody, you pray that you're making the right decisions when you're raising your kids, and He really has blessed us there, and that's something I'm really proud to and thankful for.
Yeah. Is there things that maybe they're on the horizon for you, like tournaments that are coming up this year that you're doing?
I leave next week. I fished I fished 2 major tournament series throughout the year, and that's where I'm doing a lot of the that's where we're doing that Fisherman's Fellowship. We're doing them for the KBF Kayak Bass Fishing Series, which is national, and then the Hobie Bass Open Series. Do them for those. Myself and a fellow named Cody Prather, we're doing that. And then there's others. If there's other guys that have stepped in and said, hey, if you're not going to be there, we can help.
How can people follow you and check you out? Like
you can follow
Facebook
me on Facebook at Matt Ball Outdoors on Facebook, on Instagram, Mball T-Ball is my Instagram there. And then I do have a YouTube channel, but there's not a lot on there because it just takes so much time. But I've kind of dabbled in wanting to do, if I didn't tournament fish so much, I'd probably really focus on doing YouTube, like instructional and just showing fishing stuff. But and I've really been thinking hard about wanting to somehow incorporate fishing devotionals videos on my stuff. And that's something I've been praying about. That's something I actually been wanting to talk to you about how to, I want to do them. I want to do them right. I don't want to just, but granted, I know if we just doing one is great, but trying to figure out the best way to do it. And sometimes you just got to do it. And that's what I need to do. But I've been thinking about that. And then the Cody, the guy I was talking about, he's got starting a page that you can follow along. It's called Fisherman's Fellowship. It's on Facebook, and I'm helping him with that. He's posting stuff there a lot.
Cool.
I'm going to try to start posting more stuff there on that Fisherman's Fellowship page. I'm also there's a lot of great groups out there that in the fishermen. There's Fishers of Men, another good friend that I do want to tell this story real quick. When I won the national championship, and this is a God thing, I won by 1/4 of an inch.
Wow.
I won by 1/4 of an inch. And I won over a guy by the name of Clint Henderson. And I beat that man by 1/4 of an inch. And he is an absolute incredible Christian man. He's got a group called Fishers of Men, kayak fishing. Him and I have grown really close, and he is another person in the fishing industry that I have really leaned on as far as someone I look up to.
Yeah, kind of know how to handle that.
Strong Christian man, but the way he handled, you would think he wouldn't, him and I would, but we've grown to love each other through that, and I mean, granted, he still rides me about the fact that I beat him by 1/4 of an inch, but he's a good dude and a great man, and I really look up to him in this sport as a Christian. There's quite a few of them out there, but that's one man. But the man that I beat in the national championship, him and I have become really good friends, through that. So,
well, I'm excited for you. I'm excited that you've had that.
I got a lot of stuff coming up. We'll be traveling and. Different tournaments and trying to just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for investing in others like that. Thank you for taking the opportunity that God's given you to advance the gospel.
I appreciate it.
And make an impact on others.
I just pray that I can keep glorifying him through it somehow and stay out of my own way doing it.
Yeah. Well, don't we all?
Yeah.
That's the challenge. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for checking us out.
You didn't let me share my favorite Bible verse.
Oh, well, you go ahead.
Never mind.
Seriously, what is your favorite Bible verse?
I don't even want to talk about it now. I was all prepped. You was going to ask me what my favorite Bible verse was, and I was going to throw that out there. I don't even care.
I screwed it up now.
Yeah. Whatever. I could probably tell you, and you probably won't even know what it is.
What the verse is?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I'm going to test your knowledge of Bible.
Okay, I'm scared.
Deuteronomy 23:12 and 13. That's what I live by.
You know what it is?
That's what I'm going to start signing.
Choose life? No. As for me and my house, we will serve? No.
You are so wrong. And you're a pastor?
Go ahead, tell me. It's going to drive me crazy. You said Matthew or Deuteronomy what?
23.
23.
I'm not even going to quote it, but I want you all to go out there, and I want you to get your Bibles out, and I want you to read that, and I want you to live by that. It's good talking to y'all.
I appreciate you doing this. I'll look it up and make sure I get it right.
I'm going to read it to you.
All right.
And I got to read it for word, but this is it.
Oh, so you don't know by heart.
I do know
you
it by
had it
heart.
ready, too.
No, this is my screensaver. This is Deuteronomy 23, verse 12 and 13. Also, you shall have a place outside the camp where you may go out, and you shall have an implement among your equipment. And when you sit down outside, you shall dig with it and turn over and cover up your refuse.
How'd you know that?
Shared the men's group.
Okay.
You know,
There's no way I was going to remember that one.
no,
Well, I appreciate
I'm going to
you
get that
doing
on my jersey this year. That way people are looking it up.
The
you know?
refuge.
The refuge. Refuse.
Refuse.
Your excrement, actually. Depending on there's better interpretations of it, though.
Don't go in the tent.
Cover up your excrement.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you doing
I
it.
appreciate everything you do, and you've been a great, you've been an absolutely great, both you and Adam have been great friends and mentors to my kids, and a lot of what they are today, you guys can take some credit on that too, so definitely.
Well, like I said, I know for me and Adam both, they've definitely, it's been not just a one-way street. It's definitely been two ways because
they love you guys.
They're a joy to be around.
I love the fact that you guys take them out of my hair quite a bit.
Yeah, like how many balls can you stand at one time?
Yeah, I can tell you, 4. 4's too many.
I love the fact you talk about you're going through the drive-thru, making all the orders.
Oh.
I get tired of it just